Good morning and welcome to another Friday Fun video. What could be more fun than exploring inside the Rectory? You know, people often wonder, what's inside the Rectory? It's a beautiful old 1920s stucco building. And so I thought I would just show you around the living room with all sorts of little doodads I've picked up along the way. And there are a few books here as well. So we'll start with this bookcase here. I've kind of arranged my library according to theme. All of the books that you see in this cabinet, all of them are about the city of Rome. Not the country of Italy, just the city of Rome. All of these books right here. You know, I spent approximately 8 years of my life over there, and even before that, I studied history and classics, specializing in Roman history. Go figure, the Lord had a plan. So anyway, here are a bunch of my Rome books to help me also when I need to refresh my mind before I lead a pilgrimage over there. Also inside are a couple of little doodads that people have given me. One of our priests, or our elderly priest that I cared for in his dying days, gave me this little statuette. This is a copy of the famous statue of St. Peter inside St. Peter's Basilica. It's the one that you rub the foot of and you see it shiny from how many pilgrims have done that. So that's the famous shiny foot right there. But this little doodad came from Father Paul LaFontaine. May he rest in peace. This is a copy of the famous Holy Doors of St. Peter's Basilica. That is the bronze door that's kept shut, and actually it's walled up inside except for Jubilee years. So one of my friends gave me this to remember the great Jubilee of the year 2000. This is actually a close-up of one of the panels of that door. And since it's the feast of St. Joseph the Worker, wouldn't you know there's a statue of St. Joseph here? This is olive wood, and someone gave it to me. It comes from the Holy Land. Also from the Holy Land, this is very precious, a very fragile little clay oil lamp that dates back to the time of Christ. So you can see how the oil would be poured in there, and then a wick would come out here, and then it would burn. And here's a little bust of St. Paul, patron of our diocese, and I was the rector of the Cathedral of St. Paul, which is our national shrine dedicated to the Apostle Paul. And then, of course, St. John Vianney, patron saint of parish priests. And here's a priest saint that you've probably not heard of, St. Leopold Mandich. He's the one that during the year of mercy, when the Pope brought two famous confessor saints' incorrupt bodies to St. Peter's Basilica, one was Padre Pio, and everyone said, oh, there's Padre Pio and some other guy. This was the other guy, St. Leopold Mandich, a very, very holy confessor from northern Italy. And don't you know, here's St. Catherine of Siena, whose feast day was earlier this week. Great Dominican saint. All right, there are other little statues and things, but we have to get around the room. Here is a beautiful crucifix done in a form of mosaic by one of my godchildren. So very, very precious to me. These books are all secular history, starting with ancient Rome and then working our way down through the Middle Ages. And then this section over here, we move into church history. Again, starting from the early church, working our way down. We go a little bit further and we find this beautiful image of Pope St. John Paul II, which comes from Poland. And this is a very special gift that one of the pilgrims on one of my Poland pilgrimages got for me as a remembrance of St. John Paul II, who's one of my great heroes. I was so blessed that all during my almost 8 years in Rome, that he was the Pope, and I got to meet him many times, and he was just a real hero, a real inspiration. Count on his prayers. And then on another pilgrimage to the British Isles, someone got me this image of St. David of Wales. Knowing that I have Welsh ancestry as part of my heritage, they wanted me to have the patron saint of Wales. Over here on this wall, we have a couple more pieces of olive wood carving from the Holy Land. A beautiful statue of Jesus the Good Shepherd, and who's over there? It's another St. Joseph. Well, that's fitting enough because today is the feast of St. Joseph the Worker. And here in between the statues, a beautiful copy of an image in Rome at the Church of Santa Sabina. Santa Sabina is a 5th century basilica that is the home base of the Dominican order. And this image is called Our Lady of the Rosary, because Our Lady appeared to St. Dominic and gave him the Rosary. Since we also are beginning the month of May and the Holy Fathers asked us to pray the Rosary, a very fitting image for us to contemplate. So here we have the Blessed Mother giving St. Dominic the Rosary, but then the Christ child is giving to St. Catherine of Siena, whose feast day again was earlier this week, and she's also a member of the Dominican order, giving her both a crown of thorns because she had the stigmata, and also giving her a rosary. This beautiful image reminds us of the importance of the rosary in our spiritual life if we want to be saints, and how, since the Dominicans are the order of preachers, we remember that we need to meditate on the mysteries of Christ in order to be able to share those with others. Here in the corner, yet another olive wood carving from the Holy Land. This was given to me by a parishioner right here at Holy Family, and it depicts the Holy Family with St. Joseph on their way into Egypt, the flight into Egypt. The statue here is a copy of a famous statue found in the catacombs of Rome. It shows Christ as the Good Shepherd. The original is in the Vatican museums, and the staff here at Holy Family gave me this beautiful copy as a gift for my 20th anniversary of ordination to the priesthood 2 years ago. I'm very grateful to have such a wonderful staff. They made that beautiful gift to me. And this is a great reminder that I'm supposed to be a good shepherd to all of you. Moving over to the mantelpiece, we find here another olive wood statue from the Holy Land. This one shows Christ crowned with thorns. It was given to me by one of our seminarians after his Jerusalem semester. He wanted to have a remembrance there of how Christ asks us as priests to share in his passion and to bring the mysteries of that passion to our people. So I'm grateful for that gift from him. And then along the shelf here, what we have is a series of portraits of my godchildren. I have actually 20 godchildren. So here I have a number of their portraits. Now, if some of my godchildren's parents are looking at this video, I might remind you I'm still missing a few portraits. So the mantle looks crowded, but we'll make space. So send those portraits in. In the center, a beautiful crucifix. This is a copy of a crucifix in the Cathedral of St. Paul, and the staff there gave me this crucifix as a going away gift when I came here to Holy Family. And on either side, we have watercolors from Rome of the statue of St. Peter and St. Paul that are in the front of the Basilica of St. Peter's. So in St. Peter's Square, these two great statues dominate that open space. And these were actually painted by a street artist in Rome who was a refugee from Romania. Very, very talented painter. So I'm grateful to her for doing those for me. You might also notice here, this is such a lovely 1920s house. It has some interesting decorative details like the inset arched bookcase that we started the tour with, but also here in the mantelpiece, or in the fireplace, the hearth, we find a little country village scene. It reminds me actually of The Hobbit. You know, it looks like the Shire. So it's kind of fun. And so when, in those few occasions when it gets cold here in Minnesota and we can have a roaring fire, we see this idyllic little countryside village. So that's about it for the Rectory living room. So I hope you've enjoyed this as your Friday fun. We'll have to think up something more creative for next week.